Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel SoGal. Today we have got another video on India. We're going to be circling back to India. This video is a suggestion from one of my subscribers. His name is AJ Mir, I believe, and he kind of told me a little bit about the Mughal Empire. Is that how you say it? Mughal? Muggle? That kind of sounds like Harry Potter. I guess we'll find out how to say it properly in this video, but he is kind of fascinated with the Mughal Empire as kind of a hobby for him, and he kind of laid out in his comment some of the things that he likes about it, and he made some points about how it was kind of founded by a guy who's a bit of a rags to riches story, so that'll be interesting to learn about. I'm not really sure the time frame for this, but he did mention that they gave the British East India Company some, fight or whatever in the late 17th century, so it sounds like it's going to be, I thought it was going to be more ancient history, but it sounds like it's going to be a little bit more modern than that. And that they also were the kind of like the cultural center of the world for a little while. And then they collapsed due to some internal strife and also from some external pressures and stuff from, I guess, neighboring countries or empires or whatever. So anyway, I don't know anything about this empire, so we're going to watch this video and let's see what it entails. Mughal. A very rich, powerful person in business or a media magnate. Mughal. Oh. A member of the force under the... I'm just gonna pause this for a sec. A member of the force that under Babur invaded India in 1526. Okay, so this would have been kind of right after the Middle Ages, sort of. A member of the Muslim dynasty founded by Babur, I don't know how to say his name, that ruled in India until 1857. Okay, so they were around for a little over 300 years. Okay.
At the height of its power, the Mughal Empire controlled an estimated 1/4 of the Earth's economy. Its massive population of over 150 million people was double that of the European continent at the time. This colossal state had very unlikely origins. One year
the
after
start of the
Christopher
large
Columbus
population
discovered the New World and failed to find a quicker route to India, a 11-year-old soon-to-be fugitive on the other side of the planet named Zahir al-Din, later known.
So that's an interesting point that we kind of gloss over a lot with Christopher Columbus, is that he's famous for coming to the New World, but we kind of forget that he first was going to India. So that tells me right there just how much of a big deal India was in the world at that time. They were a recognized kind of superpower, as we might say today. So I haven't really thought about that before.
Later known simply as Babur, meaning the tiger,
Babur.
had just inherited his father's tiny kingdom of Fergana. Over the next few years, he desperately tried to survive his family. Both his paternal and maternal uncles controlled armies with the goal of ending his life. On his father's side, Babur was descended from the Turco-Mongol warlord Tamerlane, and Genghis Khan on his mother's side. Throughout his teen years, he repeatedly captured and lost control of the old Timurid capital of Samarkand.
So he's kind of from pretty, I don't know, poor background, but very common sort of background. I don't know. It kind of sounds like he's a little bit well off, from a well-off family, if he's being plotted against for, murder. And if he's a descendant of Khan, Genghis Khan, then, but how far separated is he from Genghis Khan? See, I still don't know anything about, we're going to have to go back and learn more about him. But, this is kind of cool though, because it's taking some of the stuff we learned from the China videos with the Mongols, and, again, what I said before is that kind of crossover with India, and it kind of just weaves the two together, and it helps you kind of get the big picture better.
And his home of Fergana. After decades of his disunited family butchering each other, the weakened remnants of the once mighty Timurid Empire were swept aside by the Turkic Uzbeks and the Iranian Safavid Persians. After suffering a series of major defeats, Babur was left homeless and surrounded by enemies yet again. He was
this is where the rags to
mother,
riches story
a few
comes
of his
in.
dead father's loyal friends, and a small number of mercenaries with questionable loyalties and little money. As his great-grandfather Tamerlane had done a century before, Babur took refuge in the mountains of Afghanistan. There he bided his time, and expanded his small band of followers into an army, seizing control of the strategically important city of Kabul in 1504. Babur maintained friendly relations with the Safavid Persians, from where he obtained his first firearms, cannon, and experts in their use. After losing and retaking Kabul, and another ultimately failed campaign to retake Samarkand from the Uzbeks, Babur turned his ambitions to a greater prize than war-torn Central Asia, the declining but still fabulously wealthy Delhi Sultanate.
Each one of these videos, we come across people like this where they just decide that they want to conquer a land. For what reason, I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is like the history of humanity is just people like this who get power hungry for some reason. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to put myself in those shoes because I don't want to go conquer or invade anybody. I don't care. Like, you just live your life, let me live mine, and we'll live in harmony. But I don't get this mentality of having to go like conquer and slaughter people for what? Like, I don't know, you've got to have one heck of an ego to do this stuff.
At the Battle of Panipat, a much smaller Timurid army used matchlock firearms and cannon behind an entrenched barricade of 700 carts, in tandem with nomadic horse archers to great effect to defeat a much larger traditional Indian army with 1,000 elephants at the vanguard.
Elephants? I didn't know they used elephants in, like, wars. I mean, I guess maybe you would. They're a big animal. They might provide some sort of protection. How does that work? How do you fight with an elephant, though? To me, they're kind of like maybe slow and hard to maneuver. I don't know how fast elephant. I mean, I know they can kind of run sort of fast, but I mean, just seems like a clunker of an animal compared to like a horse, for instance.
Following year, Babur defeated a confederation of Rajput states, solidifying his control over northern India. Babur did not get to enjoy his lifelong dream of establishing a great empire for very long. At the age of 47, he died of a sudden illness. Some suspected poisoning. His not very popular son Humayun succeeded him, and faced multiple revolts, rebellions, and attacks from his brothers. But he was ultimately defeated and driven out of the Indian subcontinent by one of his own generals, the Afghan Farid Khan.
I hear the term an Indian subcontinent a lot, but I've never taken the time to really figure out what it is. Are they just referring to India? What's the subcontinent? Does it include other areas other than India?
Khan, who established the short-lived Suri Empire. Like his father before him, Humayun became a fugitive, taking refuge in the mountains and desert. A younger brother refused him amnesty in Kabul, before finally finding safety in Safavid Persia, by which time his vast army had been whittled down to 40 men, who had survived by eating horse meat boiled in their helmets. When the deposed, disheveled, and beleaguered Mughal emperor arrived at the Persian imperial court, he only had a few rupees to give as a symbolic gift to the Shah. In return for this, and converting to Shia Islam, he received an army of 12,000 of the Shah's best men, which he used to defeat his brother and take Kabul. In 1555, he decisively defeated the Sur.
I mean, the Genghis Khan genes are so bad, are so, like, prolific in this family, they're just trying to conquer each other at this point. It's crazy. I mean, it's not crazy in the context of history, because this stuff has happened, again, all throughout history, but, you know, it's still crazy compared to, like, modern-day sensibilities.
The Suri, and re-established the Mughal Empire. A year later, he died after sustaining mortal wounds at the library, where he tripped and fell down a stone staircase. His son Akbar is often considered the greatest of Mughal emperors.
He died from tripping down a staircase? Way to go.
During his nearly half-century reign, he greatly expanded the empire. In true Mongol fashion, he severely and extremely dealt with all dissent, rebellion, and military opposition. However, he is best remembered for being a patron of the arts, architects, and scholars of all kinds. Akbar was exceptional in his religious toleration for the time. He encouraged peaceful religious debate and outlawed forced conversions and any discrimination based on religion. He married wives who practiced a variety of faiths, including a Hindu Rajput wife who remained a practicing Hindu, with whom he had a son, Jahangir, who succeeded him as emperor. Although considered weak or decadent by many of his contemporaries, Jahangir was a competent military commander. His reign was also relatively peaceful and prosperous, and he continued to maintain close diplomatic relations with the Safavid Persians, as his father and grandfather had done. Jahangir also married a Hindu Rajput princess, who he made empress. However, his reign marked the beginning of a gradual change in the religiously tolerant policies of his father. His execution of a Sikh guru being the most notorious example. After Jahangir's death, a short civil war was fought between two of his younger sons. Upon securing the throne, Shah
it
Jahan
just continues, right? It's just like this family's just fighting against each other at this point. Now the Persians, I know the Persians are modern day Iran, basically, so it looks like at this time India had pretty good relations with what we would consider Iran. Did they call themselves India at this point? Was that the name that they were known as? I'm assuming so, because Christopher Columbus referred to it as India, I think, so.
Jahan had his brothers executed by his Grand Vizier. Early in his reign, an unusually severe famine took the lives of 2 million people. Despite this, a series of rebellions, and a brief inconclusive war with the Safavids, his long reign was relatively peaceful and prosperous. Shah Jahan is best remembered for the construction of his beloved wife's tomb, the Taj Mahal. Although empress for just 3 years, she wielded considerable power and prestige, including the use of the imperial seal to the erection of his beloved wife's tomb, the Taj Mahal.
So that's what the Taj Mahal is. It's a tomb. I apologize, guys. I don't know. Again, I don't know much about this part of the world. Obviously, I have heard and seen the Taj Mahal, but I didn't. I actually had some friends that traveled there a couple of years ago and visited, and they did mention that they saw some tombs inside. So now it's all kind of coming back to me. But I didn't know that that's what the purpose of it was like a tomb for his wife. Okay, and it was built a while back, too. Okay. Cool to know.
Although empress for just 3 years, she wielded considerable power and prestige, including the use of the imperial seal, making her edicts, declarations, and messages carry the full authority of the emperor. Shah Jahan's reign is widely considered to be the height of Mughal prestige.
Did he reign just for those 30 years, or surely that wasn't his lifespan?
His death set off a war of succession among his 4 sons, in which his third eldest son, Aurangzeb, emerged victorious. Aurangzeb
I mean, all of the wars are just with the family members. Like, so far, since Babur kicked this whole thing off, it's just been family members fighting with each other, basically. I don't remember any invading empires or countries coming in. This is all just internal stuff happening. Sorry guys, I had to cut away for a sec. I had a quick interruption that I had to deal with, so we're gonna go back just a little bit, and we're gonna pick it up from here.
To its greatest territorial extent. However, this was done at a great cost. Aurangzeb cut funding for the imperial court, arts, academics, and nearly everything not military in nature. A variety of taxes were increased or introduced, including the incredibly unpopular jizya tax on all non-Muslims, which was introduced throughout the empire. Because his policies encouraged constant rebellion, notably with the Rajputs, Marathas on the Deccan Plateau,
Oh, I've heard of them.
and the Sikhs in the Punjab, his military camp has been described as a massive moving capital city.
It's amazing how all of these guys come from the same family, but they have vastly different values and ways of ruling. Which I mean, they're all individuals, but it's good insight into the differences in how humans perceive the world and think about things.
Millions of soldiers and civilians died during his constant campaigning, many indirectly, by the spread of famine and disease throughout war-torn regions. Aurangzeb's death was followed by another costly civil war. Taking advantage of the Mughals' internal strife, the Sikhs carved out a state for a short time. After another civil war, the Mughals became strong enough to reconquer lost territory from the Sikhs. While temporarily successful in the west, the wealthy region of Bengal in the east seceded from the empire in 1717. The Mughals did not effectively react to this, as they became embroiled in palace intrigue. The powerful Mughal noblemen, the Said brothers, seized power in the empire, deposing and installing emperors at will. In 1 year alone, 1719, 4 different emperors sat on the throne in Delhi. The fourth, Muhammad Shah, was able to rally support and defeat the Said brothers, internally stabilizing the state for...
This image right here of them carrying this guy reminds me of Aladdin. You know, like the opening part of Aladdin where this is the Sultan riding on the thing. And I mean the animated version. I haven't seen the newer one with Will Smith, but I grew up with the animated version of it. I actually don't know where Aladdin took place. I just assumed the Middle East somewhere, but I don't know what country specifically.
For a short while, as costly wars of attrition with the Marathas and Sikhs dragged on,
not that has anything to do with this video,
arrived in the subcontinent. The warlord Nadir Shah, founder of the Afsharid dynasty of Persia, he waged a rapid campaign and decisively
so we've got an external
defeated
threat
much
coming in now.
armies.
Finally,
in March 1739. He sacked the Mughal capital of Delhi, slaughtering many civilians and carrying off the city's great riches. This rapidly accelerated the decline of the empire. Muhammad Shah was killed in battle by another new foreign invader, the French. In the years following his death, Bengal was defeated by the British East India Company and became a base for their operations against the Hindu Marathas.
Wait, so the British East India Company was an invading force? I thought that they were like a trading company. Were they kind of like a militant trading company? Okay.
Maratha Empire, which conquered the south of the Mughal Empire, while the north was taken defeated by the British East India Company, and became a base for their operations against the Hindu Maratha Empire, which conquered the south of the Mughal Empire, while the north was taken by the Afghan Durrani Empire, which rose to prominence after the death of Nadir Shah.
So all of the external invasions are happening now.
The Mughal Empire petitioned the Afghans for assistance against the rapidly expanding Marathas. This led to the Third Battle of Panipat, where the Marathas suffered heavy casualties, and their expansion checked. The Afghans, who also suffered heavy casualties, were driven out of the Indian subcontinent by the Sikhs. In 1771, the Marathas captured Delhi, and then declared themselves the protectors of the emperor, who became a hostage puppet. The British East India Company fought 3 wars with the Marathas to conquer most of the Indian subcontinent. Upon taking Delhi, the company assumed the role as the protector of the Mughal emperor, as the Marathas had done before. Despite his lack of tangible...
I mean, why British? Why? Why did you want India? Was it some economic thing? Some economic power that you wanted? I mean, look, I'm not one to talk. I mean, America's done its fair share of, conquering or invading too, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, India is such a vastly different culture from the British. Maybe it's just like an economic trade thing that they wanted that part of the world.
Tangible power. The reputation and prestige of the emperor was used by the company to influence the population. This charade came to an end after the Indian Rebellion of 1857, where many nobles and commoners alike declared the emperor as the sole and legitimate authority in the land. In the aftermath, the emperor was put on trial and exiled to Burma, where the last Mughal emperor died in 1862. Queen Victoria succeeded him as Empress of India, ending company rule in the subcontinent and beginning the British Raj. So who were the Mughals? I would say they were a Persianized Turco-Mongol warrior aristocracy that ruled large parts of the Indian subcontinent for approximately 300 years. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Was
Okay, so everything we just saw basically falls under the Mughal Empire. Because it kind of looks like different empires coming and going, but I guess it all falls... They're derived from the Persian word for Mongol. So I'm still a little confused here. So the Mughals were Mongols from the Mongolian region. It looks like that's where they came from. So they're really just kind of like Mongols who came and conquered India, basically. And then ruled for 300 years with a bunch of infighting with their family. And then once that got, really bad, then the external empire started to come in and take over. It looks like maybe... Well, I guess the British weren't the ones that put an end to it. It looks like there were a couple of other powers that came in before the British. It kind of conquered India, like the Persians, and I forgot what the other... I apologize. It's gonna take me a while to kind of absorb all of the names of all of these different, empires and dynasties and places and stuff. So... And also because, the words are also a little bit foreign to me as well. So it's gonna take a little bit for me to kind of absorb all of this. But let's finish this off.
Was Aurangzeb or Akbar a better representative of what the Mughals were? This has been Epimetheus, and I would like to thank my patrons over on Patreon.
Obviously the guy on the right, I forgot what his name was.
Let me know what you think down in the comments. Was Aurangzeb or Akbar a better representative of what the Mughals were?
Whoever the guy is in the red turban, I forgot which one he was, but I think it sounded like he took more of a modern approach to ruling India. Wasn't quite as big on like military and conquering, slightly more isolationist and tolerant of different belief systems and so forth. So, but also India kind of got into some trouble, I think, under his rule as well. So, kind of like a double-edged sword in a way. All right. Well, thanks AJ for suggesting this video. I definitely learned some things about this period of Indian history, so I get to add that to my knowledge. That's awesome. Again, this unpacked more things that I want to learn about and more videos to watch. If you guys have a suggestion for what I should watch next about India, please let me know in the comments. And also, if you can answer any of my questions, I appreciate that too. The people that have been commenting on my videos so far seem to know quite a bit, certainly way more than I do about all of this stuff, so it's been fun to read those and kind of learn from you. And that's what I want, you know, this kind of community to be, is a place for us all to kind of learn together, learn from each other. So appreciate any suggestions, any comments that you have. And also, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. That would help me out tremendously. And we'll be back tomorrow with another video. Not sure what it's going to be yet, so stay tuned. We'll see you next time.